Hey, well, welcome everybody. It's fantastic to be able to see you all and for you to join in. I think it's fair to say that without the support of people such as yourselves and our community, this year would be even more challenging than it has been. To provide all of our services, which are very wide ranging, we have an inpatient unit, a community team, specialist services, bereavement services, psychological services, and social work services. And all of those services have been so needed during this pandemic. So our natural workload has been amplified, and we've really needed to be there to care for people. And I think that that's taken its toll on staff, not just in the clinical areas, but for all of our BD teams as well, our business development teams. They've really had to turn on a sixpence and rearrange their whole programme. And to know that they have your support, and to know that you're there for them and supporting them and really prepared to put yourselves out, means the world to all of us, and clearly makes a huge difference to our patients, their families and their loved ones, whom we're here for at the most difficult time in their lives, to support them in every area of their life. So thank you from the bottom of our hearts for everything that you do. I hope you really enjoy the potential for this wonderful opportunity, and that you will continue to support and be partners of Willen Hospice. So thank you very much indeed, and enjoy.
Wonderful, thank you so much for that introduction. So again, thank you so much to everybody for joining us. My name is Lexi and I work for Different Travel, which is the company which is organising the fundraising events that we're going to be talking about this evening. So the main event that we're going to be talking about is the Yorkshire Three Peaks Challenge, which happens next year in June. But before we get started, we're going to kind of give you a little tiny snippet of information about our Arctic Survival Challenge as well, which happens in 2022. That's going to be launching early next year, ready for booking. So feel free to have a listen to that, and if you are tempted, then you can join us for another information evening we're holding for that separately in the new year. So let's kick off and talk about the adventures to come and the ways that you can support Willen Hospice. So before we get started, let's talk about some of the unfortunate realities of the world at the moment, and in particular, obviously, about COVID-19. So just to reassure you that as a company, our number one priority is keeping you safe. Health and safety is absolutely our priority. So for either the Arctic trip that I'll talk about or for the Yorkshire Three Peaks Challenge, if there are any risks to you, then we will not operate the trip. It's as simple as that, and they'll be at no cost to yourselves. So we're constantly monitoring the situation, as of course everybody is. If there are, for example, still social distancing rules in place, if things haven't relaxed enough that we can take a group, walking in the dales, various different aspects that would potentially risk your health and safety, then, as I say, we will not operate the trip. We'll look to postpone it, or we'll look to cancel it and offer you a refund. So please don't let that put you off or concern you. As I say, it's very, very important to us that you're kept safe and healthy and have a great time as well. So let's get into the first little bit of this evening. So I'll just briefly run through this just as a taster. I know we've got a couple of people here that are either signed up or are thinking about signing up for this very challenge. So taking place in March of next year, we're heading out to the Arctic to do a survival challenge. And this amazing fundraising experience is quite the winter wonderland. So it's a very kind of extreme adventure. You are out into the wilderness, learning how to create fires, how to build your own shelters, how to, cross-country ski, things like that. You get an opportunity to do some dog sledding, husky dog sledding as well, and just learn about what it's like to survive in the Arctic in really extreme conditions. You stay in a log cabin for the first half of the trip when you're doing some training and learning about all of these different skills that you'll need, and then you'll move out of that cabin and you'll move into this amazing sort of traditional shelter that you'll stay in for the next night, whilst you're building your accommodation for the following 2 nights. So you'll be staying, as I say, in a traditional shelter. You will dig your own snow hole that you sleep in, create a natural shelter like you can see in the pictures here as well. It's a really, really amazing challenge. It's just so out of the ordinary. It's something really meaty to kind of dig your teeth into. It's a little bit different, and it's certainly something that would get kind of lots and lots of sponsorship and support from friends and family and things. So just a kind of a really, really brief overview on the trip. 13th to the 20th of March next year, sorry, 2022, not next year. The price is £395 registration fee that you pay at the time that you book, and then you're asked to fundraise £2,944 by the end of December next year. So you've got a full year from today, and then a further £736 by March the following year. So you've got plenty of time to do all the fundraising. You've got a temperature range of minus 30 degrees Celsius to a maximum of 0, so it's pretty nippy. If you're someone that prefers kind of 30-degree sunshiny beach holidays and things, this will certainly be a really good challenge for you to consider. There's 13 places left at the moment, and we're expecting it to be very, very popular. On the 25th of January next year, we're going to be doing a full presentation evening like we are tonight, so you can find out a little bit more in detail about what it is all like. So please do consider joining us for that. But for the time being, let's move on to what you're actually here to listen to me talking about tonight, which is the Yorkshire Three Peaks Challenge. So that takes place in June of next year. Now, you may have heard of the Yorkshire Three Peaks Challenge, you may not. I'll give you a quick overview of what it is. Essentially, it's a circular walk through the beautiful Yorkshire Dales, which is the intention is of summiting 3 peaks in less than 12 hours. It's approximately 24 miles long, but it's got a lot of ascent and descent. So you've got approximately 1,500 meters of total ascent with those peaks. So you've got basically a marathon distance that you're walking, but with loads of hills chucked in as well. So it's a really, really good challenge. And of course, you've got that time limit there as well of trying to achieve that in less than 12 hours. Now, of course, you can take longer than that, but we're going to aim for the 12 hours. It is very doable, and we'll talk about how that can be achieved as we move on. But it's a great challenge and a really, really beautiful part of the world. I'm fortunate to live not too far away from the Yorkshire Dales myself, and I can tell you that it's a really stunning walk. It certainly gets the lungs and the legs going, but it's definitely one to consider. So let's talk about the actual peaks that you're going to be climbing. So the highest peak in the Yorkshire Dales is Oneside, and that is this really beautiful mountain that you can see here in the picture. And you've got these really beautiful views from the top. It's a kind of whale-back looking ridge type mountain, and from the top, if the weather's good, you can see as far as Morecambe Bay in the Lake District. So really, really amazing place to summit and to enjoy on our trip. Now, apparently the name Oneside comes from the fact that the gritstone rock that is sort of composed of the mountain used to be used for grinding corn, and they used to call it quern stones, so Oneside, quern. Who knows how language develops, but that's what they say. So it's got an interesting history in the local area. And from the top, you get to see the really beautiful viaduct, the Ribblehead Viaduct, which is kind of the key beautiful sort of landmark, if you like, that you can see as you're going through the trip. So the next one, Ingbroth, the second highest peak in the Dales. It is a really, really beautiful mountain. This kind of more what you would expect, that really beautiful kind of rocky, rugged environment. It is really just kind of packed full of interesting features. So there's a really, really fantastic cave system beneath it, including England's tallest unbroken waterfall. So that's an interesting thing that you can do as a side trip if you fancied. It was once an Iron Age hilltop fort, so it's got lots of history again with it. So this isn't just a walk, you get to step back into English history as well. Then we've got Pen y Ghent. Now Pen y Ghent is the smallest of the three, and it's not the third highest in Yorkshire. If you were to do the three highest peaks in Yorkshire, it would require a really long walk, about 20 kilometres further north than we're doing. So we actually tackled the 9th highest in the challenge, and that's kind of the classic challenge, is doing this beautiful 24-mile circular walk. It's probably my favourite mountain to climb, to be honest, of the three. It's just so much, it's full of character. It's a really good challenge. Like I said, it gets those the heart and lungs going, and it's just a really nice place with fantastic views from the top. So what's the terrain like? Well, as you can see from the picture here, it's typically on pretty good tracks most of the way. Now, of course, the condition of the tracks will depend a lot on the weather conditions, as I'm sure you can imagine. If it's rainy and miserable, then it's probably going to be a bit muddier and slippier than if it was a beautiful, hot, sunny day. But there has been so much money and effort put into maintaining the tracks because it is such a popular trekking route. A lot of the areas that you cross are open farmland, so there might be kind of more grassy trails and things. Some of the sections have been laid with these kind of really large sort of almost like boulders, like sort of paving slabs almost, to make the way up the mountains much easier for you. So it's a real mixture of different types of terrain. Now, some of the mountains, in fact, towards the top of Pen y Ghent and Ingbroth, there are some sections where it gets a little bit steep towards the top, and you have to kind of get your hands involved in a little bit of scrambling. So if you can kind of imagine climbing up your stairs after you've had one or two many glasses of wine, if you can imagine that, that's kind of what we're thinking of, without the wine and, you know, without a bed to climb up to at the top. So, you know, getting hands and feet kind of into it and clambering up the mountain for the last little bit, it makes the challenge a little bit more exciting, a little bit more challenging, and, you know, it really kind of adds a different element to this adventure. So this is kind of a challenge that encompasses all sorts of different things, and it's a really worthwhile trip to consider. So you might be wondering at this point, how tough is it? And that is a really hard question to answer, because of course it depends on your own personal fitness level, how motivated you are to succeed, you know, and all those different things that kind of come into it. But of course, the bottom line is that walking 24 miles in less than 12 hours is certainly challenging. You know, for most people, if you think about your kind of average day, you know, you probably wouldn't be standing up for 12 hours in a day unless you're one of our wonderful nurses or medical staff in the NHS, or perhaps someone that works there at the hospice in a medical capacity. So walking for 12 hours is a whole different challenge still. So, you know, consider that when you're thinking about the sort of training for this challenge. We'll talk about how to train for it in just a few moments. Now, don't be put off. It is, of course, a long distance to cover and lots of hours to be trekking for, but you don't need to be kind of super duper fit for this. You need to be prepared, you certainly need to train for it, and being as fit as you can is going to benefit you, absolutely. But the main thing is having that kind of good basic level of fitness and bucket loads of determination and willingness to kind of get through it. I think everyone has those kind of those days, those hours when you're just kind of having a little bit of a moment, shall we say, and you just need to grit your teeth and just one step at a time and just get through it. And this is a kind of challenge where that kind of resilience is really helpful, and just kind of digging deep and supporting one another as a team is really important as well. So having that kind of, you know, nerves of steel, grit and determination is by far the most important thing, and just kind of pushing through it. And then of course having a good level of fitness is also a bonus for this as well. So the kind of typical person that would sign up for a trip like this might be someone that has done a little bit of hill walking before in the UK, perhaps overseas, someone that's interested in the outdoors, you know, likes getting out there and seeing and being in nature. You know, it's like I say, it is a challenge. It's not kind of a gentle amble. You know, we were doing this within a time limit, so there will be a little bit of kind of, you know, not pressure, but you'll have that kind of motivation to make sure you get there to the end in good time. And of course, like I mentioned as well with the terrain, you know, you are talking about very hilly terrain. You've got 3 mountains to climb, essentially, 1,500 meters of ascent. So you've got those really kind of steep sections that suddenly come across you. You've got some slopes that kind of gradually kind of creep up on you. You've got that scrambling part that I mentioned on the top of Ingbroth and Penarth. And then, of course, you've got the descent as well. And I think that's something that people often forget is quite a challenge, is actually coming down the mountains and the effect that that can have on your knees, on your hamstrings, on your ankles, and also the psychological side of things as well, is kind of being concerned about where you're putting your feet and whether you might stumble as well. So there's lots and lots of different things that need to be considered when you're thinking about how to prepare for the trip and how to train for it. And certainly my top advice would be just to get out there and do as much hill walking as you can. Now, I appreciate that at the moment, with various different levels of lockdown around the country, it can be more difficult to get out to sort of, you know, the hills and things like that. But you know, wherever you can, whenever you get the opportunity to get out and do some walking, do so. Not only do we have a wonderful country to explore and, you know, do some training in, but it's really great for preparing for this challenge as well. So who can participate? Essentially anyone can, as long as you're at least 18 years old, or if you are 16 years old and above and accompanied by an adult. Now, there is no upper age limit, so if your 99-year-old granny wants to come along, that's absolutely fine. She's welcome, as long as you've got a good level of fitness, you're able to self-manage, which means essentially that you know when to stop, when to have a drink if you're thirsty, when to add layers if you're cold, when to remove layers if you're hot, things like that. Making sure that you're in good health. And you've got oodles of determination and a positive spirit. That's kind of the kind of person that joins us on this type of trip. So someone that wants to push themselves to the limit, see a really magnificent part of the UK, and, you know, of course, to fundraise for Willen Hospice as well. So a couple of the practicalities of the trip. On this trip, you'll be staying in a campsite, so it'll be a camping trip, which is lots of fun. The campsite is located between the 2 peaks, Ingbroth and Oneside. It's about 5 miles away from Ingleton, and it's got hot showers, flushing toilets, it's got a kind of snack bar, it's got Wi-Fi, all the typical things that you would expect for a UK campsite, and it's pretty comfortable, you know, for a campsite. Now, because of COVID, we are asking that everybody brings their own tent with them and their camping equipment themselves, and that allows everyone to be socially distanced. Even if the restrictions are still have been lifted by that point, again, like I mentioned at the beginning, you know, being careful with your health and safety is super important. So not only do you get the comfort of potentially your own tent if you'd like, or sharing with a friend or family member, you know, it does also help to keep you safe. So do bring your own camping equipment. We'll send you a kit list when you sign up, so you know what to bring. If you need any advice on what you need and, you know, where to get things from, we can help you with that as well. And of course, you'll need all of the bits and pieces that you would normally have on a day's walking. So, you know, hiking boots is absolutely essential, waterproofs is essential, snacks and things like that. So fairly straightforward. As I say, it's a nice campsite. At the moment, the campsite that I've mentioned, that's the one that we're hoping that you'll stay. Of course, with the way the world is, if that changes, then we'll, you know, provide accommodation at a different campsite, but that's the plan as of today. So climate and conditions is a probably very difficult to answer question that I'm often asked. You all live in the UK, so you know what the weather can be like from one day to the next, and indeed from 1 hour to the next. So if you can imagine applying that to you know, a mountainous situation, you can understand that it's quite difficult to predict. However, typically in Yorkshire in June, the temperature gets up to around about 20 degrees as a maximum, and the nights can be pretty cool, so it can get down to about 5 degrees. Now, there have been some major variations in the region with temperatures and things. I think it was last year that the temperatures in on the 3 Peaks walk exceeded 30 degrees. So it was very, very hot and very unexpected. And there have been times when in June there's still been snow on the tops. So be prepared for everything, and then you'll be prepared for the challenge. That's part of it. And of course, checking the weather forecast before you pack is certainly something that we recommend, and we can give you some good helpful resources for that too, to prepare you. One thing that I can tell you is that the length of the day on your trekking down the 19th of June will be 17 hours and 6 minutes. The sunrise will be at 4:34 in the morning, and the sunset will be at 21:40. So you'll know you've got plenty of time to complete the challenge in that 12 hours in the daylight. So just a really kind of brief overview of the itinerary. So as I say, it's a camping trip, so it's over the course of a long weekend. So on the Friday, the 18th of June, you'll meet at the campsite and pitch your tent. And we're asking you to arrive there no later than 6 o'clock. So it has gives you all an opportunity to get your tent pitched, get all settled, and then have a dinner and briefing with your local guide and find out the plan for the next day. The next day, of course, is the challenge itself. So you'll have all of that wonderful walking, 12 hours of enjoying amazing scenery of the Yorkshire Three Peaks. And then when you come back that evening, have a celebratory dinner together at the campsite, and think about the amazing achievement over the previous hours. The following day, you can depart from the campsite and head home, or if you want to, you can enjoy some of the other wonderful areas that Yorkshire has to offer. There's some really, really interesting places in the area, like I mentioned about the waterfalls. There's some really fantastic caves there. If you fancy doing a little bit of rock climbing or open air swimming, there's some really great places in Ingleton, and you're not too far away from the seaside if you fancy heading across to Morecambe over in Lancashire. So plenty of options for things you can do if you wanted to make it into a slightly long adventure, a staycation after the challenge. So how do you sign up? What does it cost, and what's included? So you've got 2 nights included at the campsite. The pitch is there included for you. You'll have 2 evening meals. You'll have a packed lunch that you'll take with you during the challenge day, and 2 breakfasts at the campsite as well. There'll also be transportation between the starting point of the walk and the end of the walk if necessary, depending on the route that we take. So as it's sort of circular walk, we can go clockwise or we can go anti-clockwise, and we'll determine that closer to the time of departure. We're keeping an eye on other charity groups to see which way round they're going, so we can hopefully miss them and go the other way round. So we'll keep you posted on that. Of course, there'll be a UK walking guide with you, and you'll be accompanied by, of course, a Willen Hospice representative and one of our staff, a UK different travel tour manager as well. So the only things that you need to kind of worry about in terms of budgeting would be getting to and from the campsite, travel insurance if you wanted to arrange that. It's optional, but it's recommended. Your trekking kit, your tent, camping equipment, personal expenses like snacks and things that you might want to buy to take along with you as well. So that's what's included. How much does it cost? So to book, there's a registration fee of £95, and that's what you pay at the time that you book. And then you've got 2 fundraising options. The first option is that you can either fundraise at least £255 for Willen by the 26th of March, and a further 255 by the 18th of June. So that's a total of 510, is it?
510, yeah.
Yes, gosh, yeah, it's Monday. Maths is not good for a Monday. Or alternatively, you can self-fund the trip. So you can personally pay £255 trip costs, and then you can fundraise the final £255 by the 18th of June. So they're your options. We'll keep it nice and flexible for you so that you've got the choice of doing one or the other. So how on earth would you be able to fundraise £510? Now, Dawn, you are the expert on this, so I'm going to hand over to you here. Tell us, how can we raise £510 for Willen Hospice?
Okay, thank you, Lexi. So we really want this to be inclusive, affordable for people, but at the end of the day, we are raising money for Willen Hospice. So we will help you raise that money. Everyone's really different. You can't always just ask your family and friends to sponsor you. You do also try and do that. So we try and help with fun ideas. So this year we've had to do a lot of virtual ways of raising money. And it has also worked really well. So you can have a virtual quiz, you can have a virtual wine and cheese night. So you're in different homes, you're all on Zoom and you're raising a glass to each other. You can do raffles, maybe auctions. So if we're not able to meet face to face, which hopefully we will be, and hopefully definitely by June when we're going to go to this trip, just use your imagination. Actually, it doesn't matter where you are in the world. We've found with our events, we have people doing the Midnight Moo in Australia, because you don't have to come to the hospice to do that event on a certain day. So we will support you. I am the Challenges fundraiser, so I will look after you on a one-to-one basis. We have, as you can see in these pictures, we've got banners we can give for your events. If you can do a bake sale, maybe again when we're allowed back at work, or you can do a bake sale for your family and friends in small numbers in the garden, if that's allowed at the time. We have balloons, we have obviously collection pots and buckets. We can promote your event. So we've got some London Marathon runners that hopefully will do a quiz later next year, and they want other people to come to their event. So it might be you buy a ticket. So we will help you with all of these ideas. It is in total £510 that you have to pay and raise. But for a weekend in the Yorkshire Dales with a tour guide, different travel, you'll have someone from the hospice looking after you. I think it is really good value, as well as you will help raise some money for the hospice. And as Peter said, we're 50% down on our income this year. We've had to change the way we do events, and fair play, like we did Santa Dash yesterday, and we had people out there in the wind and rain in their Santa's outfits all over the country. And at the minute that's raised £8,000, which is fantastic, absolutely stunning. So you'll get to see lots of me. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. Hopefully we can set up a WhatsApp group. You can go walking together. We've done that with previous trips. We've gone to Borneo and Vietnam. And ideally you'll meet people on the trip that maybe you're friends for life. It's very much a way of bonding with other people, because you're doing a difficult challenge and you might need to help each other physically and mentally. And all of you will be doing it for Willen. So that's the beauty that you've all got in common. I've worked with Lexi in different travel before. They're brilliant. And your enthusiasm, Lexi, for anything that we do with you is just stunning. And I get from this that you've done this trip.
I have, yeah. It was a little while ago, probably a couple of years ago, since I've done the 3 peaks, but I kind of keep on telling myself that I have no excuse not to get out there and do it again, because I'm only 15 miles away, so I have no excuse. So I'm hoping to get out there in January and do a winter walk, so that'll be fun.
Yeah, but like Georgia's on the call. Georgia is one of our amazing nurses at Willen Hospice, and she did a virtual event and she raised £1,500 during that week doing a virtual run. You know, so again, if it's something people can join in, that also helps, because they can take part with you and also help raise some money towards your fundraising. So thanks, Georgia.
I think as well, you know, it's really important to kind of mention why it's so important to fundraise for Willen as well. And Peter obviously mentioned that at the beginning, but you know, it's one of those things that it's such a valuable you know, cause to support. And you know, you've all got your connections to the hospice, no matter what they are, and the work that, you know, every single staff member does, every volunteer does, you know, it's just incredible. And without your support, you know, it could never happen. So, you know, thank you so much for even just spending your time this evening, you know, listening to us and considering it. Even if you decide that it's not for you, then, you know, tell friends and family and see if, you know, someone else fancies taking part and supporting, you know, the hospice as well. So we're just going to show you a small video clip, and I hope it will work. Let's see if I can get it to work. Come on, technology. Yes, here we go. This is Lorraine's story.
A couple of years ago, probably about 5 years ago, my daughter, she was probably about 21, maybe 20. She came and volunteered here. And one particular time she came out and Mark picked her up and said, oh, there's a man who's just like your age, Dad, and it's just heartbreaking. And he was really quite taken aback by it and said to her, well, I hope one day, will that be me one day? And a couple of years later it was. The top of it, he was a family man, absolutely loved his family to bits, you know, really, you know, and we've been together since we were 16.
Oh, sorry.
So everyone loved him, At the end of 2017, I picked him up from work just before Christmas, and he said his neck was sore. So he went to the doctor, a lot of pushing from me, and they found out that, they thought it was a trapped nerve, and that's what they were saying it was. And so he had painkillers, and he signed off work for a couple of weeks. And then as the time went on, it wasn't really getting any better, but then he did wee blood, and from there we thought something wasn't quite right. So they were treating that as an infection, but I think, you know, it wasn't going away after antibiotics, and they discovered that he had kidney cancer. So it all tumbled into appointments and Oxford and what have you, and they were going to take the kidney out, but he kept saying about his shoulder, and eventually they did a big body scan and found out that the cancer was in his neck. Basically from there onwards it was just going downhill. It was treatment, it was chemotherapy, radiotherapy, immunotherapy. He tried everything, but they did say he only had a year to live at the time. He outdid that a bit, so, because I knew he would. Without the support of Willen, you know, I don't know what I would have done really. But when I first walked in here, it's just calming. Compared to all the hospitals you go to, you don't get that feeling when you walk through the door, and you know that everyone is doing their best, as they are in the NHS as well, but it's just a different sort of thing. It's set up for people that are going through this awful time, and it's just a nice feeling as you walk through the door. And Mark felt the same as well. I was speaking to Willen the whole way through the summer, and the week before he died, we were at home still, and we were speaking every single day. Those phone calls got me through that day, because it's a scary thought knowing that you've got someone at home that could die really any minute, and it's from me telling them what was going on that day, they could make up their minds and know what is going on, and they so knew that he was coming towards the end of his life. I knew as well, but I probably wasn't. I was just trying to think, okay, we're okay. So they were just waiting for me to come in, and we arranged for him to come on Thursday. He came in on Thursday, and it was just the right time for us. I stayed in the room, for 3 nights, and my son came for 2 nights. It was just me and my son in the end. We knew what was the situation going on. It was very difficult and hard for everyone to have to deal with. So if he'd gone into hospital, he wouldn't have had anyone at all. And I always promised him all the way through this, I'll be with you to the end, and I will stick with you, and I'll be with you. Don't worry, you'll always have me there. I couldn't break that promise, so that's why I stayed, and they're quite happy to let me stay. And the chair that opens up, and I slept in that. Sam was on just a wooden chair, and the nurses got so sorry for him. They found him a chair, and you could hear him coming to the corridors trying to get this big chair through the door. So we had both chairs open up, with legs on, blankets on, and marking at the door. It was and that was another thing. It was even though you're going through a really awful experience, the nurses that are here were just so calming, and you could still find a bit of laughter somewhere, just to take the edge of what you're feeling about. And they were so gentle, and so you could, the knowledge of what they're doing was just pouring out of them. It was just amazing. I'm in awe of them. I don't know how they do it. Special people.
Okay. Very powerful. That's Lorraine that's helped us with our Christmas appeal, and Georgia, the nurse who's gone to do the night shift, would very much have been looking after Lorraine and her family. So Team Willen, we always talk about Team Willen, whether that's people that work for the hospice, whether that's people supporting. It's a really strong place to be part of. And these are just two ways you could join us, in the many ways I'm sure you already support us. So I'm going to ask any questions because Lexi's here, so and I'm here. So yeah, any questions from anybody?
If you have any questions and you're not wanting to ask them sort of in public, as it were, then feel free to pop an email across to Willen Hospice and they'll be able to answer that at some point in the coming week. Email address is challenges@willen-hospice.org.uk, I think. So pop an email across if you've got any questions you don't want to shout out this evening. As often it takes a bit of time to absorb what you've heard and have a think about things. Probably one of the things I should have included in the presentation is where to go to book. So pop onto the Willen Hospice website, you'll find the link to the booking form on there, and you can book and pay for your place online for both of the challenges, the Arctic and the Yorkshire Three Peaks Challenge.
How many places have you got for the Yorkshire Three Peaks, Dawn?
So we are looking to have at least, I want to say 15 join us for it to really happen, and we really need people registered by mid-January because of committing to pay for the campsite. So yeah, we can take up to 25, that would be brilliant, but for it to happen we're looking at really 15 people to join us.
Mm-hmm.
It takes.
My only reservation is I haven't got a tent.
That sounds your
stupid.
worries.
That's not anything to worry about. You can pick up very good quality tents for very low prices, and there's also lots of places that you can hire them as well. So
Okay.
Don't panic about that if that's your concern. We'll figure something out for you. Even between us as a company, we've probably got enough tents to supply one for everyone, so we could probably look into doing that. Of course, the benefit, as I said before, of having your own is the hygiene side of things, so knowing it's yours and you're the only one that slept in it, for example. But yeah, there's loads of really affordable tents out there, kind of 30, 40, 50 pounds kind of thing for a decent tent that would do the trick for this. So yeah, just ask us if you've got any questions or worries about that. And plus, once you've got a tent, then it opens up the possibilities of doing more adventures like this. If you do have any questions, like I say, feel free to email across to Dawn and she'll be happy to help you. Or if she doesn't know the answer, she can send them over to me. And yeah, thank you so much for spending the evening with us.
Oh,
Okay.
Lexi, that's
Thanks,
just
Lexi.
Thanks, Lexi.
Thanks so much.
Thanks for joining us.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks, Dawn.
Bye.